أركان القوات البرية.
الفريق ركن صدام حفتر.
وأكد صدام حفتر آمر أركان القوات البرية أهمية تعزيز الشراكة والتعاون العسكري بما يسهم في دعم الأمن والاستقرار في المنطقة.
An exceptional event, with steady, deliberate steps moving through the heart of the storm, a clear and determined Libyan national vision, now taking shape with confidence at the center of Europe, making its presence felt and drawing the attention of key decision-makers across several European Union countries. In a move that defied expectations and came as a striking surprise in military and political circles, Lieutenant General Saddam Haftar, commander of Libya's ground forces, made a notable appearance at the center of an elite gathering, flanked by senior generals and top ground force commanders, representing 15 Mediterranean nations during a high-level strategic military summit hosted aboard the French aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle, docked in the southern French city of Toulon, in two capitals that hold the reins of European policy, shaping the course of strategy across the Mediterranean and deep into Africa. This visit was more than a photo opportunity. It concealed a series of high-level meetings behind closed doors. The invitation was no mere protocol gesture, and not something extended to just any passing commander, nor simply for the sake of appearances. In Paris and Rome, the rising general walked with the bearing of a statesman, not seeking to showcase his presence, but steadily building it moment by moment, step by step. The general was far from an ordinary guest. At the table of Europe's most influential decision-makers, he emerged as a key architect of a new strategic equation, one that is quietly, but deliberately, taking shape along Europe's southern flank. They are well aware that General Saddam, emerging from the heart of the desert, now holds the threads of power and regional balance firmly in his hands. Through him, solutions are shaped and settlements are negotiated. A man whose presence carries real weight, especially across the African Sahel, where both the French and the Italians have struggled to maintain influence. Saddam is not just a name, he is a national project that began with a clear and deliberate vision, and has since grown into a steadily rising force, now asserting itself as an undeniable and influential reality, a central national figure and a decisive Libyan decision-maker, whose role in shaping the region's stability and long-term security can no longer be dismissed or overlooked. From France to Italy, mutual respect is evident, and strategic alliances continue to grow stronger and more defined. From the gateway of security and defense to the deeper realms of politics and high-level decision-making, two visits on separate occasions, yet both carried a single unified message. A Libyan project that is advancing steadily and confidently on the ground, and assertively building its presence within the major capitals of global power. Amid official meetings and coordinated military and security discussions, there was a message that went far beyond what words could say. The general who restored stability and brought security back to the homeland, from the deep reaches of eastern Libya to the far southeast and southwest of the country. The same figure who rebuilt bridges of negotiation with former adversaries in Ankara now secures a place at the table of global diplomacy, establishing his footing among Europe's leading statesmen at a pivotal moment in Libya's modern history, a time of transition and decisive direction. At the heart of these visits deep into Europe, and the series of prior shuttle-style missions to key Arab, Western and African capitals, including two significant stops in Washington, as well as in Belarus and Russia, lie the early seeds of decisive change, laying the groundwork for major strategic shifts across the entire Libyan landscape. A Libyan commander carving his path aboard the Charles de Gaulle. There, in Toulon, France, a young Libyan, in his late 30s, is received as a senior commander aboard Europe's most iconic aircraft carrier, the Charles de Gaulle, standing among top generals from both shores of the Mediterranean, north and south. By official invitation from the French Army Chief of Staff, General Pierre Schill, in recognition of his growing role as a key player in shaping the region's security architecture. The Mediterranean, a space for cooperation between ground forces. Under this headline, the commander of the French army published on the official website of the Ministry of the Armed Forces details of a strategic meeting that brought together 9 countries from the northern Mediterranean: Portugal, Spain, France, Italy, Croatia, Malta, Greece, Cyprus, and Turkey, and from the southern shore, 6 countries, led by Libya, represented by the Chief of Staff of the Libyan Ground Forces, General Saddam Haftar, alongside counterparts from neighboring African states, Mauritania, Morocco, Tunisia, and Egypt. A message came through clearly: whoever seeks stability in the Mediterranean must sit with Saddam and pursue meaningful joint cooperation. Over the course of 2 consecutive days, the gathered generals held in-depth discussions on a range of complex and pressing issues, chief among them irregular migration, regional conflicts, illicit trade routes, and growing geopolitical competition. The agenda also included the rising threat of natural disasters and their wide-reaching humanitarian consequences. Different issues, distinct in detail, yet intertwined in dimension, converge at a single point that began in the heart of Libya and has now reached the center of Europe. General Saddam Haftar faced these files directly on the ground, working to untangle their complexity in real time in the heart of the field. In Libya's deep south, thousands of kilometers away from the meeting of Mediterranean generals, the rising Libyan commander led an open war across vast desert expanses, a region where the borders of 4 neighboring countries overlap and entangle. It was a major confrontation, fought across multiple battlefronts, where General Haftar led operations in Libya's southern terrain, a place where burning sands meet the gunfire of cross-border terrorist groups, weapons smugglers, and organized crime syndicates. These networks fueled the trafficking of fuel, food, and arms, and enabled mafias responsible for smuggling humans and narcotics, shaking the very foundations of European security. Yet amid this chaos, he succeeded in restoring law and redrawing the map of internal stability, reviving the presence and authority of the Libyan state in one of the most unstable and difficult regions, where borders blur and control is constantly contested.
مش في شيء باين السيف هذا كل حاجة. أصحى 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 أنا وين؟ كارثة معنى ما تعني كارثة.
نسمع برا عشان نجري في كل جمعة.
ما اللي توفى عندك فكرة؟
أمي خوتي.
كأنها يوم القيامة.
ستحط طائرة عمودية على أرض درنا تحمل شخصية عسكرية شابة ستغيب عن عدسات الإعلام، لكنها ستبرز بقوة في كواليس الفاجعة الكبرى لتدير الدفة من قلب الخراب، متقدمة الصف لمواجهة كارثة غير مسبوقة، مسارعة إلى توجيه الكوادر البشرية وفرق الإنقاذ المحلية.
In discussions on natural disasters and their humanitarian consequences, one of the core issues addressed by ground force commanders across the Mediterranean, General Saddam Haftar emerged as the most prominent military figure on the matter. A closer look at the images from inside the meeting reveals it clearly. Chiefs of staff from 15 nations watching closely as General Haftar presented the rescue operations he personally led following the devastating storm that struck Derna, a disaster of such scale that even major nations would struggle to manage it. Yet the rising Libyan commander was not behind a screen or issuing remote orders. He was there, on the ground, in the heart of the catastrophe. From southern chaos to Derna's devastation, to the general's table aboard the Charles de Gaulle. The participation of General Saddam Haftar was both a gain for his host and a strategic addition to France's periodic gathering, held for the first time with the presence of a young field commander, one shaped by real experience and forged in the fires of crisis. Perhaps he was the only commander to have seen the files discussed aboard the Charles de Gaulle through the lens of crisis, from within the rubble. He alone, among Mediterranean generals, had real experience moving armies in catastrophe, facing migration crises not from afar, but directly on the ground, understanding the complexity of the terrain and confronting the realities between chaos and destruction. Before taking his seat at the table of international generals, Saddam had already entered the laboratory of reality. Under the harshest conditions, he came face to face with the facts on the ground. With sharp judgment and strategic clarity, he identified weaknesses and strengths within military structures, revealing how armies respond under this kind of pressure. Today, he continues building a modern, capable army at scale, capable of charting success through a practical Libyan model in managing some of the most complex security, military, and humanitarian files. A model where plans are tested in the field, not just written on paper, where the difference is clear between those who lead from the ground and those lost in forecasts that can collapse in a single moment. Rome marks a new chapter in the evolving map of General Saddam Haftar's alliances. Following Paris, Italy, Libya's Mediterranean neighbor, opened its doors to the envoy of the General Command, a figure emerging from the geography of security and stability. Lieutenant General Saddam Haftar arrived in Rome on official invitation, extended by the Italian government, for a high-level, unprecedented 3-day visit. On Rome's table were security and military files, carrying deeper diplomatic and political dimensions, revealed through a key 4-way meeting with senior Italian leaders and ministers. Inside the Italian Ministry of the Interior, under a ceiling weighed by urgent security concerns, the Libyan general met with Interior Minister Matteo Piantedosi and top officials from the ministry. This wasn't a table for discussion, but for major challenges that have troubled Rome for years: irregular migration, maritime human smuggling, organized crime, drug and fuel trafficking, core threats at the heart of Italy's security concerns. With field experience in confronting such challenges, shaped by Libya's complex geography and long borders with African neighbors, Lieutenant General Saddam Haftar presented a clear vision for joint coordination, proposing a unified front to secure borders, disrupt smuggling and criminal networks, and confront irregular migration, a burden Libya cannot shoulder alone. Once the security talks at Italy's Ministry of the Interior concluded, another key destination awaited: the Ministry of Defense. There, General Haftar was received in the office of the Italian Defense Minister, a decisive visit with significant regional military implications. The commander who drew attention at the Mediterranean Generals Summit in Toulon now stood at the center of Rome's defense agenda. Discussions focused on Mediterranean stability and explored direct cooperation with his command to address rising threats, ones he may help reshape and redirect towards stability amid growing regional disorder. After Italy's failed attempts at forming defense partnerships with other actors along Libya's western coast opposite Rome, the rising Libyan commanders' engagements within the Italian military did not end. Following meetings at the Interior and Defense Ministries, the Chief of Staff of Libya's ground forces entered the headquarters of the Italian army for a meeting with Italy's Chief of Army Staff. The topics discussed there differed from those at previous ministries. The Libyan general opened a new chapter of military and strategic cooperation, focused on strengthening defense ties and sharing operational expertise between the two armies. But the other unexpected development was the unveiling of specialized training programs aimed at enhancing the capabilities of Libya's Coast Guard and Naval Border Patrol units to enable joint efforts in protecting the territorial waters of both Libya and Italy. A development that sparked debate across the opposite shore of Rome's northwestern coast, raising wide-ranging questions about the fundamental shift in Italy's approach. A shift now driven by clear national interest and by the pursuit of alignment with the strongest actor on the Libyan stage. Italy is ready to move beyond past positions and build a new partnership with trusted allies in Libya, capable of forming a strong security and military alliance, one that helps stabilize its coastline, long strained by war profiteers who once dominated the security scene across the sea. Rome's interest in partnering with the rising Libyan commander was evident in the high-level attention surrounding his visit, marked by a series of meetings with senior Italian military officials. Notably, the chief of the Italian Navy scheduled a dedicated session with General Saddam Haftar to hear directly from him and explore coordination efforts with the chief of Libya's ground forces aimed at bolstering maritime security. A paradox that may seem illogical at first. What connects the chief of ground forces with the top brass of the Navy? The answer lies in Libya's geography, powerful enough to redraw the traditional rules of military specialization. He who controls its land holds the keys to its sea, and he who secures its vast desert interior is best positioned to understand how to protect its open coastline, stretching 1,350 kilometers along the Mediterranean. From this perspective, we can understand the Italian Navy chief's interest in sitting down with the Libyan commander to open direct channels of cooperation with a proven field officer whose presence is trusted in the maritime security equation. The two sides agreed to organize specialized training programs to retrain and enhance the efficiency of Libyan naval units, using modern methods, where training and capability mean direct coordination in the days to come. The goal, to establish an advanced line of defense for Rome along the Mediterranean coast, one not drawn in ink, but built by the hands of those who've lived the battlefield. At a point where the national security interests of Rome and Libya intersect, starting from Benghazi, a point where maritime calculations meet land-based equations to shape a new balance along Europe's southern flank. From the capitals of Europe to the banks of the Nile, the general is drawing the contours of a new regional stability equation. From Paris to Rome, and then to Cairo, a capital central to shaping events in the region. These are chapters in a strategic narrative carefully written by General Saddam Haftar across the geography of regional decision-making. In Cairo, the chief of Libya's ground forces was received at the Ministry of Defense's General Secretariat by Lieutenant General Ahmed Fatih Khalifa, Chief of Staff of the Egyptian Armed Forces. A moment that reflects the depth of ties between two armies, aligned in objectives, united in vision for regional security. A visit that deepens Libyan-Egyptian military cooperation and reaffirms Benghazi's role as a key pillar in the regional equation of security and stability. A visit that drew the attention of Arab and international media, many surprised by the scale of reception and the clear attention given by Egypt's military leadership to Libyan General Saddam Haftar. The visit carried strong symbolic weight, signaling Libya's return as a sovereign state, now reclaiming its role as a key player in North African politics and defense. This was reflected in the presence of Libya's rising general at the graduation of the Command and Staff course at Egypt's Higher Military Academy for Strategic Studies, held on the 60th anniversary of one of Egypt's most prestigious military institutions. In addition, officers from the Libyan National Army, alongside others from Arab and African countries, participated in a joint academic and training program. Egypt, the central link, the bridge between Arab Asia and Africa, and a general arriving from the heart of Europe, representing Libya in Cairo, a highly significant moment reflecting Libya's growing regional and international role and its return to the front ranks through competence, readiness, and a clear willingness to play a leading role in regional security. From the shores of Europe to the banks of the Nile, from the Charles de Gaulle to the halls of the Italian military, interior, defense, general staff, and naval command, then onward to Cairo's defense secretariat. 1 week, a brief period. In just 1 week, a brief span of time, the rising general succeeded in redefining Libya's position and reinforcing its sovereignty within regional and international political equations. A field commander who emerged from the heart of the desert and entered European and Arab spheres of influence, quietly, away from the spotlight. The challenges he faced and the experience earned on the battlefield became the aircraft that carried him to France, then landed him in the halls of the Italian army, a historical rival of Libya, now formally receiving a young Libyan officer whom it sees as capable of supporting internal stability and maritime border security. Capitals near and far are realizing power is not measured by size or age, but by the key player who can reshape equations and redefine the rules of the game. The general of the Libyan desert succeeded, for the first time in over 15 years, in restoring Libya to the center of sovereignty and respect, at the heart of Europe and its military mindset. The one who led the battle for stability inside Libya, faced waves of chaos and open borders shaped by neighboring wars, stood firm against terrorist militias, dismantled opposition groups along Libya's long borders with Chad, Niger and Sudan, struck human trafficking hubs, arms smugglers and fuel mafias, and succeeded in drying up the swamps of organized crime, is undoubtedly positioned to play a key role in shaping what comes next. It's a reality that cannot be ignored, one that forces both adversaries and allies to recalculate and reshape their policies to align with him, and none else. The general who crossed Libya's vast desert is now seen, east and west, across Africa and Europe, as a builder of regional stability anchored in Libya, driving security, forging partnerships, and building bridges of cooperation among neighboring states, regional players, and global powers. The path of General Saddam, which is unfolding gradually and revealing itself day by day, carries with it profound implications and direct impact on both security and politics across Europe and Africa. Its reach extends to the core of global power competition, touching the fault lines between Russia and the United States and passing through Turkey's complex geopolitical dilemma.